Denial. I waved goodbye to my friends as I stepped off the bus and headed to my house. I was super excited to get home and see my parents. They hadn't talked much at all yesterday. As a matter of fact, they just stayed in their bedroom all day. They haven't been feeling well. I ran up the stairs of the front porch and swung the front door open with a big, cheesy grin on my face. However, when I opened the door, there was no one in the den. The television was off, and the house seemed to be abnormally quiet. I took a step in and started calling out. "Mom? Dad?" I called. I knew they were supposed to be here. Dad had the day off, and Mom didn't have any plans with her girlfriends until next week, right? I placed my backpack next to the couch and walked into the kitchen to check the calendar. October 5th. I was right. Dad took this day off so him, Mom, and I could go see a movie together. I've got to be here somewhere, I thought to myself. Then it hit me. School let out early today because of a busted water pipe. I looked at the watch on my wrist. It's only 12 o'clock. It may still be sleeping. I headed back through the den and slowly opened the bedroom door. Surely enough, there they lie. A sigh of relief escaped my mouth and my grin returned. I tiptoed over to my mom's side of the bed and pulled the covers back. I was greeted with the same sight as the day before. She lay there motionless, eyes glazed over, mouth agape. Her skin was a pale white and her hair was beginning to thin. The soup I gave her yesterday sat on the side table. It was stale now and she hadn't even touched it. I'm beginning to think they don't want to feel better. I placed the cover back over her head, grabbed the old soup and left the room slowly, closing the door behind me. I decided not to wake either of them considering they must need their sleep. I'm sure they will be up for it tomorrow. Until then, I have a ton of psychology homework to be done. We're doing this paper on some who have this type of disorder, causing them to live in denial of even some of the most obvious things. I couldn't imagine living like that. Snap. Every month, a beautiful woman would drop off her film at a camera store to get it developed. He didn't know her name, but she was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen, and was also a wonderful photographer. It made his day when he got to develop her photos. The pictures were of her, sometimes at the beach in a bikini, sometimes at a picnic of lunch, always smiling. A close-up photo of her face revealed her beautiful clear blue eyes that she would dream about at work when it was a quiet day. One time a naked photo even slipped through, a self-portrait she had taken in the bathroom. This was before digital cameras, and there was no way to delete photos off the roll. But of course, as he suspected, this one was just put in for him to see. He kept it. One month, a man started appearing in all of her pictures. This man was smiling too and hugging her in many of the photos, sometimes at the beach, sometimes at a picnic. He didn't like that, so he got rid of all the photos with this other man in them. After this, she didn't get her photos developed there anymore. This passed, however, and soon enough, her photos of her started coming through the shop again. The man she was with didn't appear in the photos anymore, and she doesn't smile much anymore. In fact, she appears to be crying in most of the photos. Most of the pictures are taken outside a glass window, and the only close-up now of her beautiful eyes is when they're closed and she's fast asleep. A trip to the cemetery. On an early dim morning, an elderly woman rested her hand atop a gravestone. Henry Blackwood, 1938 to 2004. She rested flowers on it and wept, something she didn't usually do. She always made sure to bring something of Henry's when she made her annual visit to his grave. Her memory wasn't what it used to be, and her brain needed to help to get a jog. She brought something he hated, his hearing aids. She remembered wistfully how he never used them, always insisting he had excellent hearing, despite keeping the television volume up so high. Now all she wanted was his return to her loving embrace. Henry. Oh, Henry. She fell to her knees and looked at the sky. How I wish you'd come back to me. Up in the sky and through her blurred, teary vision, she saw a red star. It was faint, but she heard a malignant chuckle, and a star flashed to match it. Then it disappeared with the rising sun. She wiped away her tears. Strange. Was it a product of her imagination? She stood up and surveyed the area, but saw nothing. It seemed like the moment was merely nothing but old, senile, womanly mood swings. As she smiled at her silly old self, a question came to her that felt like part of a dark realization. Could the battery in the hearing aid still work? She attached it to her best ear and turned it on. She could hear the rustling of crow feathers in a nearby tree. It probably still worked due to her husband's lack of commitment to use it. Then, swallowing hard, she rested her ear on the ground above his grave. Her mouth dropped in horror. She heard scratching, shuffling, and a familiar voice bellowing a horrified scream. Eat your greens. My mother always told me to eat my greens. Like most, I was a fussy and picky child and didn't want anything to do with the disgusting-looking mass of otherworldly slime that she slopped onto my plate every meal. Give me meat, give me dinner rolls, anything but that. Eat your greens so you grow up big and strong. If all you eat is meat and sweets, you'll just turn into an aggressive thug, she always told me. Well, I certainly didn't want to be a thug. I was a nice person, you know. I was always polite and always patient, too. I couldn't stand those jerks who played football and stuffed other kids into lockers. You'll just have to repay them with kindness and outlast them with patience, my mother always advised. Well, Mother, I guess you were right. I will be more kind and patient than the thugs and jerks. See, I invited the jerk over for dinner. Wasn't that nice of me, Mother? I'll even eat all my greens this time, to make doubly sure that I won't turn into a thug. I just wish that it didn't take so long for the human body to turn green. I'm getting really hungry and my dessert will spoil soon, Mother. The music box. You know how it goes. When you were a child, your favorite thing was your music box. It would play a soothing yet haunting melody that lulled you to sleep, or provided background noise for playtime. You had it for years. You loved it, cherished it. You brought it everywhere, kept it safe. It was your comfort item, one you were proud to show. Your music box kept you safe. Or so you thought. Each night you would play it, falling asleep to its haunting tune. But what you didn't know was that it was always there, poking and prodding at the edge of your consciousness. It controlled your dreams, made you think that the nightmares only came when there was no melody breaking the stifling silence. No, you didn't have nightmares with your music box. It was the nightmare. It fed off of your happiness, your calmness. Oh, now you're just noticing that you never had to change the battery. It wasn't an inanimate object, no. It was a living, malevolent creature. Waiting. Waiting. It's waiting for that one moment. That one slip up in reality. It's waiting for you to screw up, to forget. Your precious music box will become part of you. You will forget it. You will not remember. It will control you. And the only part left will be a faint melody, one that reminds you of your younger, innocent days. What you won't realize is that it was slipping up. Fight it. Remember. Don't forget. Or you will become one of them. All he wants. The sweet old lady rocks rhythmically in her recliner. Her head nods often in approval as she agrees wholeheartedly with her favorite evangelist late this evening. This has been Mrs. Witherford's routine every night since her late husband left her alone and vulnerable. The preacher is hitting his groove on this exciting paid advertisement. The love of God is unyielding. His grace is amazing because it is neither earned nor taken. No, it is free. All he requires is that you receive his gift. All Christ wants from you is to understand that you are not condemned and to go forth and make the world a better place through love and compassion, through the word of the Lord. The sweet old lady increases her rocking pace in childlike excitement as the words of the Lord ring true in her heart. As she turns and gestures to the young Girl Scout tied to the dining room chair, she can sense the Holy Spirit's message getting through by the tears of joy streaming down the saved child's cheeks. All monsters are human. You've always had a slightly ridiculous phobia of mirrors. It's never interfered with your life before, except in small and completely inconsequential ways. You'd close your eyes during a middle school session of Bloody Mary, would rush past them in a dark hallway. Things any red-blooded American raised on a steady diet of horror and gore would call more habit than oddity. One night, late, you're getting ready to go out with some friends. You feel grimy, so you decide to get ready at your apartment, where you can clean up with your own products. Everyone's hanging out, taking pictures, and generally having fun as you decide to wash your makeup off and start fresh. You decide that the quickest way to do this is the way they show in the commercials, where you get it all at once by splashing water over your tightly shut eyes and completely soaking your bathroom floor. You glance out quickly to be sure that your friends don't notice your moment of hesitation when it's time to close your eyes and scrub within sight of the mirror. As you rinse off your face, your eyes open to see a reflection staring back at you, which is not unusual. What is slightly off, however, is that when you go to leave, the other you does not. You stare at each other with wide eyes, waiting to see what happens next. You turn to your friends to see if they're seeing what you're seeing, to find their grins growing wider, too wide to be quite human. Their eyes turn as black as coal, and they start to walk forward. Your reflection and your friend's reflection start to scream. Your friends lunge forward toward their doppelgangers. You always knew you were on the wrong side. As your eyes begin to burn in an entirely sick, pleasant way, your grin stretches wide, too wide. The cry. She lay still in the darkness, not daring to make a single sound. For hours she had lay awake in her pitch-black room, shivering with terror. She held herself tightly as not to ruffle the sheets which she gripped with vice-like strength. She chewed on her tongue as to ensure that her teeth did not chatter, ignoring the taste of her own warm, salty blood. She dared not to make the softest whisper for fear of unsettling the beast which sat in the corner of her chamber. She awoke hours ago to a faint breeze which tingled down her spine, rattling her core, and suddenly was shook by a hot burst of air rushing against her skin. The shock of the chill and sunburn startled her as she awoke to the sight of bright yellow-green eyes that watched over her that night. For hours now she had gripped her sheets, pressing down on her tongue as she was sweating drops of terror from her skin. She felt the heavy yellow glow press down on her like a megaton, perversely watching her cower under her soft quilt. She began to grow tired, and her eyelids dropped, and she was finally at rest for the first time in hours. When she opened her eyes again, the yellow light blinded her, and without a sound her demonic intruder was face to face with her. In this moment she shrieked out a primal scream of sheer terror, with which the creature bathed in with great pleasure, as it seemed to feed on her very fear. The next morning she awoke perfectly fine, as if nothing had occurred that night. She assured herself it was simply a nightmare. She stood up and realized that the window was open, and in that moment she felt the cold breeze that awoke her last night. That's when she saw the claw marks which scratched her window frame, and ran up and down the bricks of the side of her house. She took a deep breath and prepared to let out a scream like the one she unleashed that night, but to her horror she was incapable of uttering a single sound. The creature had devoured her voice.